Time for convening having arrived, the last day of this 2018 General Assembly. Welcome to Sine Die. Chair recognizes Senator from the 53rd.
Morning, Mr. President. First thing, the Senate kickball team beat the House kickball team. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And Mr. President, on a personal note, we want to thank you for your years of service as Lieutenant Governor of this outstanding body. The leadership you provided for us and the entire state, we're very grateful. We look forward in your further endeavors, and thank you for allowing me to be the rules chair this year. Let's give the Lieutenant Governor a hand.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator.
The journal's been found, and be it correct, I think we wheelbarrowed it in earlier today.
All right. Well, thank you, Senator. Thank you for the good works this year and the Rules Committee, as well as all of the reading that you have done of the journal as well. So is there objection to dispensing with the reading of the journal? The reading of the journal is dispensed with. Is there objection to the confirmation of the journal? Chair hears none, and the journal is confirmed. All senators having bills and resolutions to introduce, please bring them to the Secretary's desk at this time. First reading and reference of Senate bills and resolutions.
Senate Resolution 1140 by Senator James 35th and others, a resolution creating the Senate Study Committee on
Rules
Revising.
Committee.
Mr. President, that concludes the order.
First reading and reference of House bills and resolutions.
House Resolution 1198 by Representative Spencer the 180th and others, a resolution
Health
urging...
and Human Services.
Mr. President, that concludes the order.
All right. Reports of standing committees. Secretary will read.
Mr. President, Senate Committee on State and Local Government Operations has had a consideration following legislation instructing with same back to Senate file recommendation. House Bill 992 passed. And I, Senator Kirk of the 13th. Mr. President, Senate Committee on State and Local Government Operations has had a consideration following legislation instructing with same back to Senate file recommendation. House Bill 1043 do pass. House Bill 1061 do pass. House Bill 1063 do pass. House Bill 1064 do pass. House Bill 1065 do pass. Submitted by Senator Kirk of the 13th. Mr. President, Senate Committee on Assignments has had a consideration following appointments made by the governor that requires Senate confirmation as instructed before the same back to the Senate file recommendation that the appointments be confirmed as submitted by Senator the Honorable Casey Cagle. Mr. President, that concludes the order.
It is now time for the morning roll call. Time for the morning roll call. Are there any motions to excuse? Chair recognizes Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for unanimous consent. The gentleman from the 28th and the senator from the 14th be excused for business inside the Capitol.
28th and
14th.
14th. 28th and 14th, without objection, the two senators will be excused. Chair recognizes Senator from the 20th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 19th for business inside the Capitol.
19th, without objection, senator from the 19th will be excused. Chair now recognizes senator from the 24th.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 25th for business outside the Capitol.
25th, without objection, the senator from the 25th will be excused. Any other motions to excuse? Senators, please signify your presence by voting the yay switch. Secretary will unlock the machine. It is now time for our morning devotion. Would ask that all senators please take your seats and cease all audible conversation as we are beginning to prepare the chamber for our morning devotion. Doorkeepers, if you would, please secure the chamber at this time. It is now my distinct honor to recognize the distinguished senator from the 20th District for the purpose of leading us in our pledge and introducing our chaplain of the day. Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. Please join me in the pledge to the United States flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now the Georgia flag. I pledge allegiance to the Georgia flag, to the principles for which it stands, wisdom, justice, and moderation. Happy Sine Die, everybody. Good morning. We're in for a real treat this morning with our pastor of the day. One of the privileges I've had in serving the 20th District is getting to know our pastor of the day. As I was thinking about introducing him this morning, I'm reminded of the Bible story I learned as a child in Sunday school about Joseph and his coat of many colors. Well, Reverend Smith is a man of many hats, and you'll understand why when I tell you a little bit about his background. So our pastor of the day is Reverend Steve J. Smith. He's serving his 10th year as pastor of New Richland Baptist Church in Jeffersonville, Georgia. He has served as an interim pastor at a number of churches in Middle Georgia, including Irwinton Baptist Church, Big Sandy Baptist Church in Wilkinson County, and Tabernacle Baptist Church in Cochran. One thing that makes him unique, he is also serving as his third year as superintendent of schools of Bleckley County. After serving as superintendent of Wilcox County Schools for 6 years. He comes from a business background. He was an executive in the insurance industry, which of course endears him to me, being in the insurance business like I am. He was the first person in the state of Georgia to be named a superintendent of any school district after completing the Georgia TAP program. He was a member of the inaugural Georgia TAP class and now serves as a Georgia TAP ambassador. Reverend Smith conducts workshops and trainings throughout the state on school finance on behalf of the Georgia School Superintendents Association, the Georgia School Boards Association, and the Georgia Association of Educational Leaders. Reverend Smith is married to his high school sweetheart, Regina, who is with us today. They have two daughters, Katie and Madison, who reside in Atlanta and Savannah. And Reverend Smith had the pleasure of officiating their weddings the past 2 summers. One thing I really love about Reverend Smith is he is an encourager. He sends out a weekly broadcast email to his teachers and constituents, and every week he highlights somebody that has gone above and beyond their duty in that week of service. They have a very successful school system. I ask you to give a warm Senate welcome to Reverend Steve Smith.
Mr. President, to the esteemed members of the Senate, and to guests, I am honored and privileged to be before you today, and I especially want to thank Senator Larry Walker and members of the Secretary of the Senate. I want to share a quick story before I lead us in an opening prayer on this historic day as we celebrate the conclusion of another successful session. I have a pastor friend with 2 daughters, different as night and day. In their teenage years, one seemed to do no wrong, while the other seemed to be a constant challenge. You parents out there can surely relate to this. Despite the challenges from that daughter that resulted in the pastor friend resigning from his church, which they refused to accept, by the way, he constantly reminded us that if you went into his house, you would see pictures of both his daughters on his refrigerator. You see, he may not like the actions of one daughter, but he still loved both of them unconditionally. Our Father and Creator may not like everything we do, but He loves us unconditionally. If He needed a refrigerator in heaven, your picture would be on it. That daughter grew into a godly woman who married and had 3 beautiful sons. Unfortunately, this young mother was one of the approximately 100 Georgians who died from the flu this season, passing away just 8 weeks ago. So my prayer is in memory of Amy Haygood Gilliam. Let's bow together as we pray. Our most kind and gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for loving us unconditionally. We rest in the knowledge that nothing we can do can make you love us any more or any less, because your love is immeasurable. We pray that during the holiest of weeks for Christians, we will pause to thank you for sending your Son to change the world. Our future is secure because of the sacrifice Jesus made on that cross. We know the cross is only part of the story because death was temporary for him. And we celebrate his resurrection on Easter. For those of us who have chosen to live our lives for him, we celebrate the risen Savior every day. Lord, I thank you for these men and women and their dedication to the people of this blessed state we call home. I thank you for their service. I thank you for their support staffs. And I thank you that today marks the end of this session so they can go back to their families and their lives. Lord, I pray that we can all disagree without being disagreeable. I pray that we can love those who seem unlovable. I thank you for loving us when we are unlovable. I pray that you give wisdom to each and every member of this esteemed chamber. I pray that you would be glorified in every meeting, in every discussion, and in every bill that is passed here today and tonight. I thank you for the men and women who have decided not to seek re-election. May you bless the next chapter of their lives. For those who are seeking re-election, I pray your wisdom and guidance as they continue to serve. Lord, may you grant a peace beyond understanding as we kick off this final day of this session. We praise your holy name, and it is in the precious name of Jesus that I pray. Amen.
Senator from the 39th. Would like to present the Doctor of the Day, and it's my honor now to call upon the Senator from the 39th to do so.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Doctor of the Day is Mr. Theodis Buggs. Dr. Buggs is a board-certified orthopedic surgeon with the Southeast Permanente Medical Group and Kaiser Permanente. He is a graduate of Clark Atlanta University, received his medical degree from the University of Alabama School of Medicine, and completed his fellowship at the University of Alabama at Birmingham. Dr. Buggs' career spans more than 20 years of practice in Atlanta and Birmingham. He specializes in orthopedic trauma, sports medicine, and total joint replacement. His specialty is the innovative anterior approach to hip replacement, which allows for a faster recovery and a patient being able to return more quickly to daily activities. He served on the board of directors for the YMCA and Empower Ministries, a faith-based organization that provides for health care for the indigent. Welcome, Dr. Buggs.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to thank each of you for this great opportunity to serve you today as Doctor of the Day. I am part of the orthopedic surgeon, part of Kaiser Permanente system, which basically is an integrated medical service system that provides care for greater than 300,000 and growing patients in Georgia. I'd also like to thank each of you for your service and your hard work in taking care of us, the citizens of Georgia. Challenging issues that you deal with, especially the medical issues that can be even challenging for physicians. And these issues not only impact us, but our daughters, sons, and our future sons and daughters. So it's very important. And so I will, again, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for your service. And any of those kickball injuries still left over, come see me.
Well done, well done. That's awesome. Great. Let's do a picture together. Are there any unanimous consents? Senators wishing to rise on a point of personal privilege. Senator from the 35th, you wishing to rise on a point of personal privilege, you are recognized to do so at this time.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today is Get Your Hands Green Day. Every year we have Environmental Day at the Capitol, where we try to encourage everyone to recycle, reduce, compost, and try to have zero waste, because many of you know that during my first tenure in the 90s, I introduced a bill called Zero Waste by 2020, and it was not adopted in Georgia, but 40 plus other states did adopt it, and it is working in many other states. And so we do still try to encourage it here in Georgia. And today we still have our famous ice cream. We had left a little bag on everybody's chair as well. But Kilwin's over in Atlantic Station is downstairs with their chocolates and ice cream again. Also, Tracy Randall, WellCare, the medical benefits, they're doing the hand massages. We have Serena Duncan again. Deborah Clark is always the green, I call her the green queen. Lydia, Alexis, Ethel Ryans, Monte Robinson, they're down getting a picture with the governor right now. But the ones who are, a few of them are up in the gallery, so I would like to ask you to give them a warm Senate welcome. And everybody, please get down and get some ice cream today. So thank you very much. Let's give them a warm Senate welcome to all of those who are here today for Green Day. Get your hands green. Thank you. I yield away.
Thank you, Senator. Chair now recognizes Senator from the 38th on a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, colleagues. I come to the well today with a point of personal privilege. I want to mention that on the 40th day, it has been a dramatic day. It's very busy for us. Last year we had a bridge to burn. We normally, unfortunately, have storms, and we've got one coming in this evening. A couple of tornadoes have gone through in our 10U. This is the last day that Mr. President, our Lieutenant Governor, will be presiding over this body. So this is going to be a difficult day for some of us, and everybody will come out fine and be on the other side tomorrow. Also, this is the last day that Mr. Lindsay will be a doorkeeper for us after 11 years. And I have a resolution for him, Senate Resolution 1146. Commending Wallace V. Lindsay Sr. for his outstanding service to the Georgia State Senate. And I'm going to ask if we can quiet down for a minute, because I want to make sure that he is properly acknowledged. Extending congratulations to him in recognition of his retirement as a Senate doorkeeper and for other purposes. Whereas Wallace V. Lindsay Sr. presently serves the Georgia General Assembly as a Senate doorkeeper, having filled this role for 11 years. And in his service on the team of doorkeepers, Mr. Lindsay has fulfilled his duties to support and assist the Sergeant-at-Arms to enforce the rules of the Senate, to control access to the Senate chamber, to enforce the rules concerning behavior and decorum of the Senate floor and in the Senate galleries, and to execute the directives of the President of the Senate. And whereas Wallace V. Lindsay Sr. has fulfilled his duties honorably and faithfully, while being cordial and respectful to everyone with whom he has come in contact, and has made the decision to retire at the end of this session of 2018 at Sunny Die. During his lifetime, Mr. Lindsay has served in several supervisory positions in the manufacturing industry and with the Fulton County government, where he retired after 25 years of service. He is a dedicated, loving, and godly family man who, with the love of his family, his life, Lillian Lindsay, has led his family of 8 grandchildren, 7 great-grandchildren with love and strength. Whereas Wallace V. Lindsay is respected and well-liked by the members of this body and will truly be missed as he moves on to other pursuits. One other note that I want to make, he is going to have a birthday this Saturday, the 31st of March. Let us, if you would, lead me in commending him with a round of applause. Thank you.
you, Senator. Chair recognizes the Minority Leader, the Senator from the 41st, on a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, members of the Senate. I am honored to be with you here today, the sine die day for the session. And I want to come before you and say that when this session started, we knew statewide elections were coming up. Some people said, you know, you should obstruct and try to point fingers at anybody running statewide for any reason. I think you know the members of the Minority Caucus have come to this body and acted in a fair and appropriate manner. That on bills that we objected to for the rational reasons that you might disagree with, but you know we're coming from our hearts and our minds of what's best for the citizens of Georgia. So I come before you today thanking you for allowing us to work with the Majority Caucus and telling you that we tried to operate in a spirit of fairness. In that mode, I have to say that in the last 7 years as Minority Leader, I have many times objected to the fact we hadn't fully funded QBE. So I would be remiss today if I didn't thank the governor and thank the members of the Senate, the Appropriations Chair, the Education Chair, and others for the fact that this session we have put that $167 million in the budget and helped our schools. We know that challenges remain, and hopefully we can deal with them. We know that state employees and teachers need to be addressed, and hopefully we can deal with that in the future. But I thank the governor, I applaud this chamber, I applaud the House for making that happen, and I think it will be important to Georgia's children. I also want to ask each of you as we continue today, whether it be a Democratic issue or a Republican issue, that we operate as we always do in the spirit of fairness and give each member, whether they're in your party or another, the proper respect to listen to their arguments and do the right thing. Thank you, Mr. President.
Chair recognizes Senator from the third on a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm very pleased to announce that yesterday, the Georgia General Assembly, we raised $479 to be donated to the favorite charity of the Senate. And that was raised at our kickball game yesterday, which of course we all know that the Senate won. And this money will be going to Georgia Cares, a nonprofit entity. It coordinates connecting services and support for victims of child sex trafficking and exploitation. It gives these children one more chance at having a good life. But I also want to thank three very special, very bright, intelligent young ladies that put this all together, and that was the interns in our office. And so they're up in the gallery, Jenny Gusdial, Rebecca Kaufman, and Kate Luz. Would y'all stand up? Let's give them a hand. So, and of course, we also appreciate Avio Vargas, our assistant down in our office. She helped put that together, and they just did an excellent job and for a very good cause. So thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Chair now recognizes Senator from the second on a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. The children of our great state, they need hope. The children of our great state members, they need opportunity. When we look at the governor's budget and we see that $167 million was added to fully fund QBE, we can only say that this is the right time and the right place to do this, because fully funding QBE gives children hope, gives children opportunity to succeed in this world. So I personally like to thank the governor for what he's doing for QBE and also what he's doing for public education to give young people the opportunity to succeed in life. But as I look at everything that's what's going on in the governor's office, I look at also his appointments, where 48% of the governor's appointments are female and 56% of the appointments are male. But there's another note that 11% of the governor's appointments are African American, and 1.6% of the governor's appointments are Hispanic. As we are an inclusive state where African Americans make up 30% of this great state, we ask the governor, when he looks at his appointments, to be more inclusive, to look at his appointments, to reach out, to make sure there are not only geographic inclusion, but inclusion with all races and all people. The governor's on his last phase. He's fully funding QBE, and that's a great job. But also, when we look at new appointments, let's look at being more inclusive to all races, to all people. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the will.
Chair recognizes Senator 27th on a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate. I first want to start out by acknowledging a random act of kindness on Tuesday, and my hustle to get out of here late at night and get home. My wallet fell out of my back pocket, wound up somewhere between my office and the car, and somebody, I don't know who it is, but somebody found it, picked it up, and turned it into Lost and Found. So whoever that was, I just want to say thank you so much, because it saved me a lot of time of having to cancel credit cards and get my driver's license and all that kind of stuff. So whoever did that out there, I greatly appreciate it. Also, this is my last day in the great body of the Georgia Senate. And I just want to let all of you know, while we might have some disagreements, we might have some times where we have fought, I have thoroughly enjoyed the 4 years I've been here and the relationships that I've been able to build. So I want to thank all of you for the kindness that you've shown me, for the opportunity I've had to serve with you. Look forward to a very exciting last day of session. And again, thank you all for the friendship and opportunity. And with that, Mr. President, I yield the will.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 14th on a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. Here we are on the last day of session, and we know that we're going to begin this day, and before the day's over, there'll be tempers flying, there'll be feelings hurt, there'll be some people excited about what happens. But I think we ought to take pause just to reflect, because all said and done, this is about relationships. First and foremost, sitting in my chair, as I said this morning, one of the things I draw passion on other than my faith is my family. And today I have my 13-year-old son with me. Many of you have seen Faith come every year. Max is now kind of taken over that tradition. And so relationships are important, and I think we shouldn't forget that in the midst of what we're trying to do, whether it be Democrat, Republican, or whatever. We're trying to represent people. Second of all, yesterday, obviously, we had a funeral, and we got to recognize someone that had great contributions not only to our state, but to the nation. And again, someone that relationships mattered. And lastly, Mr. President, I'd like to address something with you. If I can get everybody's attention, please. Mr. President, I've had the pleasure of serving with you for 5 years. There are times we disagree. There are times we agree. But all that being said, you've been nothing but kind to me and my family. And I want to let you know it's at the end of today, regardless of what happens, with your political career, I want to thank you. And with that, Mr. President, I yield the well.
Thank you, Senator, very much. Thank you. Very kind. Chair recognizes Senator 28th on a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate. I just want to tell a quick story that's a great testament on why we're the #1 state to do business. And this is a story of a small company in Troup County known as Jackson Services. It was established in 1973 and purchased by Dale and Ben Jackson in 2006 from Ted and Glenn Jackson. And after being forced to reduce staff by nearly 40% due to the Great Recession, they were able to work with local officials in Troup County and turn the company around in the 2009-2010 area. And from 2009 to today, they've grown their company from 31 employees to 78 employees. And, you know, when leaders have a vision and they assemble a great team to carry out that vision, it's just something that all of us should strive for. So again, Jackson Services, I want to congratulate you on being a great small business and really being an example of why this is the #1 state to do business. With that, I yield the well.
Thank you, Senator. That concludes our points of personal privilege. Is there a local consent calendar? Okay. We have a privilege, we have a local consent calendar of privilege resolutions. We have 2 of those. Is there objection to adoption of the privilege resolutions? Chair hears none. The privilege resolutions are therefore adopted. Are there any motions to withdraw or commit? Mr. Secretary, are there any? We have another privilege resolution that we would like to read and adopt. Secretary will read.
Senate Resolution 1141 by Senator Jones of the 10th and others, a resolution recognizing and commending all who acknowledge the residual effects of the institution of slavery and express it with the fullest condemnation for other purposes. That concludes the order.
Is there objection to adoption of the resolution? Chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. That's fine. I'd like to do them together if we could. We have a local consent or the local consent calendar of local bills that are before you, and there is an added one that is dealing with the Board of Education of Rockdale County. It's a supplemental. I'd like to have one vote on that. If there's not objection, we'll put this on the one on the entire local consent calendar. Without objection, we'll have that as one vote. Secretary, are there any objections filed on any of the local bills on the local consent calendar?
Mr. President, there are no objections filed.
Question is on the adoption of the local consent calendar. All of those senators in favor, please vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary will unlock the machine. On the local consent calendar, the yeas are 50, the nays are 0, and all the bills on the local consent calendar are therefore adopted. If I could have the Senate's attention, the governor's appointees that need confirmation is going to be the next item of business before us. Chair now recognizes Senator from the 18th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent that the reading of the governor's appointments be dispensed with, since they have been printed and distributed by the Secretary to each senator, and that one roll call suffice for all appointments unless any senator designates any appointee be deleted from the list and voted on individually.
Is there objection? Without objection, the conferees will all be taken as one. And Chair now recognizes Senator from the 18th again.
Thank you again, Mr. President. I move that the governor's appointments be appointed as submitted.
Is there objection? Without objection, all those in favor of the governor's appointees being confirmed by the Senate will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary will unlock the machine. Chair recognizes Senator from the 13th. What purpose you rise?
Mr. President, I ask for unanimous
Too late. Yep. Once we start voting, the machine is already locked. On the governor's appointments, confirmation of the Senate, yeas are 51 and the nays are 0, and those all members have all been confirmed. Okay, let me have the Senate's attention for just a moment, if I might. Bring to your attention what is about to be distributed to you will be the grouping by which we will take the bills off of the calendar that have been tabled. So the bills that are on the table, we're going to present you Group 1 and Group 2. This will serve as the order by which those bills will be coming off of the table. So each senator needs to be prepared ahead of time, and this will serve as our guide throughout the day as we take the bills off of the table. The ones that, let me just go over, it's being, I think, circulated to you as we speak, will be SR 539, SR 1058, House Bill 853, House Bill 890, House Bill 972, and House Bill 849. Those will be the first 6 by which we will do. Senator from the 45th will stand by. Secretary will read SR 539.
SR 539 by Senator Unterman, the 45th and others, a resolution recognizing John Richards and for other purposes. Amendment 1 by Senator Unterman, the 45th, offers the following amendment. Amend SR 539 by deleting lines 24 and 25 and inserting in lieu thereof the following. Now therefore be resolved by the Senate that the members of this body proclaim John Richards and for other purposes. Mr. President, that concludes the order.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 45th speak to the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President and members of the Senate. It's very apropos that we start the morning with Senate Resolution 539 because we are honoring and remembering the memory of Mr. John Richards. I was very privileged to have John reside in Gwinnett County, but most of you may remember him as the writer of Georgia Pundit and Peach Pundit, not George Pundit, Peach Pundit, and he roamed the halls here, and he was in all of our districts. And we did honor him last year when he passed away, and it's been almost a year and a few days since he did pass away. So we thought it was very apropos to have another resolution honoring him. So I ask you to join with me, and we will deliver this to his family as we did the past one. There is an amendment on it because we changed it from the Georgia General Assembly to the Georgia State Senate. So I ask for your favorable consideration on Senate Resolution 539, and I yield the well.
Questions on the adoption of the amendment authored by the senator from the 45th. Is there objection? Without objection, the amendment has been adopted. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the resolution? Is there objection? Agree and report a committee which fail will pass the bill. All those in favor vote aye. Those opposed no. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the adoption of the resolution as amended, the yeas are 48 and the nays are 0. And this resolution, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. Secretary now will read SR 1058. Oops, yeah. So, Senator from the 43rd, you'll need to remove this from the table. My apologies. Just the motion will be to unanimous consent to remove SR 1058 off the table.
Mr. President, I ask for unanimous consent to remove SR 1058 from the table.
Is there objection? Without objection, the bill will be removed from the table. First, let me recognize Senator from the 13th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent to excuse the senator from 37th for business inside the Capitol.
37th, without objection, Senator will be excused. Secretary will read SR 1058.
SR 1058 by Senator Anderson, the 43rd, and others, a resolution urging the United States Congress to halt the transfer of current and former military personnel's health care costs from the federal government to the states and for other purposes. Amendment 1 by Senator Anderson, the 43rd. Offers the following amendment: amend SR 1058 by on lines 38 and 39, deleting the General Assembly of Georgia and replacing it with the Georgia State Senate. Mr. President, that concludes the order.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 43rd to present the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Resolution 1058 urges Congress to not pass on the TRICARE debt to the states. And Medicaid is by law the payer of last resort. TRICARE pays primary to Medicaid. And this resolution urges the Department of Defense to work together and be mutually accountable, and it requires DOD to waive the 1-year timely filing requirement for all claims caught in a stoppage where TRICARE does not share data with Medicaid. That is the whole of the Senate resolution, and if there are questions, I will yield.
There are no questions, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the will.
Any other senator wish to speak for or against the resolution? Is the objection agreed and report to committee which fail pass the resolution? Chairs none. All those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the resolution, the yeas are 47, nays are 0, and this resolution having received requisite constitutional majority is therefore adopted. Senator from the 41st, what purpose you rise?
Mr. President, I may have to move for reconsideration, parliamentary inquiry. On the
State your inquiry.
On 1058, there was an amendment in the book. Was that amendment acted upon?
I'm sorry?
Was the amendment acted on? In the
Yes.
book? Okay.
There was not objection on the amendment.
That sounds good. We didn't hear that. Thank you.
On, I'm sorry. The amendment, my apologies, I thought you were asking about 539. There was an amendment. I was unaware that there was an amendment on 1058. So the posture by which we would be, and that's fine. I mean, it's before us now, right? Yeah. I think it does. I don't think we can reconsider. My apologies, Senator. The secretary didn't had it, but it was not in my presence. So, see, that wasn't final action, I think, was it, or was it? It was. No, we can't. Unless we suspend the rule, which we could do. Chair recognizes Senator from the 41st.
To bring 1058 up so it can be amended. Right now, the posture is that there was an amendment that would make it a Senate-only resolution, and right now it's a joint resolution, so if we don't do this, I believe it would be fail.
Okay.
Senator 55th, what you know,
Senator is moving for the suspension of the rule so we can reconsider our actions and take it up if the reconsideration motion passes. Is there objection to suspending the rule? Without objection. Okay. Without objection, we have suspended the rule, so reconsideration is now in order. Chair will recognize Senator from the 41st.
Mr. President, so we're in posture is we would vote on reconsideration. If it reconsiders, then we can take it up and quickly move on to other business.
That is correct.
Thank you. Move for reconsideration.
All those in favor of reconsidering our action will rise, stand, and be counted. If you're in favor of reconsidering our actions. If you're in favor, rise, stand, and be counted. Reverse. On the passage of, or on the motion for reconsideration, the ayes are 38 and the nays are 1, and the Senate has reconsidered its action. It is before the body at this time. The Senator from the 55th, what purpose do you rise? 55th, what purpose do you rise?
I wave off, Mr. President, but I was going to bring it to your attention that the amendment had not been voted on before we voted.
Right, we're in that posture now. The senator has spoken to the bill. The senator has spoken to the amendment itself, I believe. Is that correct? Or would you? Yes. Is there objection to adoption of Amendment 1 authored by the senator from the 43rd? Without objection, the amendment has been adopted. Now, the question is, does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Is the objection agreed and report of committee which fail passage of the resolution is amended? All those in favor vote aye. Those opposed no. Secretary unlock the machine. On the adoption of the resolution as amended, the yeas are 51, the nays are 0, and the Senate has adopted the resolution. We have some special orders that we would like to go ahead and get moving back and forth at this time. Chair will recognize Senator from the 56.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd ask unanimous consent that we move to disagree with the House substitute to Senate Bill 319.
Read the caption.
Senate Bill 319 by Senator Albers of 56 and others. The bill will be titled an act to enact the Consolidation of Fire Safety Services in Georgia Act to establish Department of Fire Safety and for other purposes. That concludes the order.
Senator has moved to disagree to the House substitute. Is there objection? Without objection, the Senate has disagreed to the House substitute to Senate Bill 319. Chair now recognizes Senator from the 56 again.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate disagree to the House substitute for Senate Bill 432.
Read the caption.
Senate Bill 432 by Senator Albers of 56 and others. The bill will be titled Enactment Article 2, Chapter 7, Title 40 of the OCGA relating to the imposition, rate, computation, exemption from state income tax, so to provide for the expiration of certain tax credits and for other purposes. Mr. President, that concludes the order.
Senator has moved that the Senate disagree to the House substitute to SB 432. Is there objection? Without objection, the Senate has disagreed. Chair now recognizes Senator from who? Okay. Chair now recognizes Senator from the 33rd. 33rd.
Good morning, and thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate disagree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 202.
Read the caption.
Senate Bill 202 by Senator Rudd of the 33rd and others. The bill will be titled Enactment Article 7, Chapter 4, Title 49 of the OCGA relating to medical assistance generally, so as to provide for an increase in the personal needs allowance to be deducted from a nursing home resident's income and for other purposes. That concludes the order.
Is there objection? Without objection, the Senate has disagreed to the House substitute to Senate Bill 202. Chair recognizes Senator from the 13th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent that the Senate move to disagree with House substitute to Senate Bill 367. No, sir.
The senator has moved that the. Have we read the caption? Senators move that we disagree. No, read the caption.
Senate Bill 367 by Senator Kirk of the 13th and others. The bill will be titled Enactment Code Section 45985 of the OCGA relating to payment for indemnification for death or disability, procedure for making payments and appeals so as to provide for the option of payment to an estate in the case of death suffered in the line of duty by a law enforcement officer, firefighter, emergency medical technician, emergency management, special state highway employee, or prison guard and for other purposes. That concludes the order.
Senator His, is there objection? Without objection, Senate has disagreed to the House substitute to Senate Bill 367. Chair now recognizes Senator from the 3rd.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate disagree to the House substitute to SB 338.
Read the caption.
SB 338 by Senator Ligon III and others. The bill will be titled Enactment Article 1 of Chapter 13, Title 50 of the OCGA relating general provisions for administrative procedure so as to modify requirements for agency rulemaking, to modify legislative objections to and staying of proposed agency rules and for other purposes.
we've read the caption. Is there objection? Without objection, the Senate has disagreed to the House substitute to Senate Bill 338. Chair now recognizes Senator from the 25th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate disagree to the House substitute to Senate Bill 385.
Read the caption.
Senate Bill 385 by Senator Jones of the 25th and others, a bill will be titled an act amending Code Section 12839 of the OCGA relating to cost reimbursement fees and surcharges so as to change the surcharge imposed by host local governments regarding solid waste disposal facilities operated by private enterprises and for other purposes. That concludes the order.
Senators moving to disagree to the House substitute to SB 385 is the objection. Without objection, Senate has disagreed. Senator from the 28th, we're back on the bills that have been tabled. Removed from the table. Chair recognizes him, 28.
Mr. President, I ask for unanimous consent to remove HB 853 from the table.
Is there objection? Without objection, the bill will be removed from the table. Secretary will read House Bill 853.
House Bill 853 by Representative Dempsey of the 13th and others, a bill will be titled an act amending Part 1 Article 6, Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to the short title and purpose of the Quality Basic Education Act so as to provide that children placed in psychiatric residential treatment facilities pursuant to a physician's order may not be charged tuition for other purposes. Mr. President, Senate Committee on Education and Youth offers following substitute to House Bill 853, bill will be titled an act amending Article 6 of Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to the Quality Basic Education Act so as to provide that a child placed in a psychiatric residential treatment facility by his or her parent or legal guardian pursuant to a physician's order and for other purposes. Mr. President, that concludes the order.
Chair recognizes Senator number 28 to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, I bring you HB 853. Simply, this bill just allows our students to continue to show up in their school system's QBE count when ordered by a doctor to receive treatment at a psychiatric residential treatment facility. Current law only counts students if they're ordered by the state. Again, this will allow them to be counted if they are ordered by a doctor. We've also added in committee, at the wisdom of our chairman, it requires the facility and the school system to enter into an MOU that will be updated every 2 years, and this MOU will be around counting procedures, funding, and which party will actually employ the teachers. This bill is important for student patients to continue their education while receiving treatment so they cannot fall behind in their studies. There are 6 PRTF hospitals in Georgia, and this is going to affect around 300 students per year. With that, I'll yield for questions.
No questions, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask for your considerable favor.
Question on the adoption of committee substitute. Is there objection? Without objection, committee substitute is adopted. Any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Is there objection? Agreed. Report of committee which fail pass the bill. Chairs none. Report of committee is agreed to. All those in favor of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary will unlock the machine. Good to have former senator and now good judge Billy Ray with us today visiting. Good to give him a round of applause. Also got Eric Johnson, former senator from Savannah, here with us today visiting. Appreciate you very much. On the passage of the bill, the ayes are 48 and the nays are 0, and this bill IMC Rex constitutional majority is therefore adopted. Secretary, or excuse me, now Chair recognized senator from the. Okay. I'm a very, very, very patient person. However, If we're going to take these bills up like we need to, folks need to be at their desk prepared and ready to take them up. Senator from the 23rd is up next, and he is not at his desk. Yeah. Well, Chair recognizes Senator from the 49th. No. We're going to do a resolution at this time. We'd like to recognize one of our very special doorkeepers that will be leaving us this year. Secretary will read a resolution.
Senate Resolution 1146 by Senator Anderson of the 43rd and others, a resolution recognizing and commending Wallace Lindsay on the occasion of his retirement for other purposes. Whereas Wallace Lindsay was born in Atlanta, Georgia, the youngest of 9 siblings, on March 31st, 1932. And whereas he married the love of his life, Lily Lawrence Lindsay, on July 22nd, and they have been happily blessed to be married for 68 years. And whereas Wallace began working for the state of Georgia on November 21st, 2007, and has worked every session since 2008. Now therefore be resolved by the Senate that the members of this body recognize and commend Wallace Lindsay for his efficient, effective, unselfish, and dedicated service to the state of Georgia, congratulate him upon the grand occasion of his retirement, and extend the most sincere best wishes for continued health and happiness. That concludes the order.
Is there objection to adoption of the resolution? Chairs none. Resolution is adopted. All of us have had the great privilege of getting to see Wallace, and what a wonderful man that he is. We appreciate his service to our body, and to speak to the resolution and recognize our very special honored guest today. I recognize Senator from the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's a season of transition, and we've had a number of doorkeepers that are leaving us this year, and we like to salute each and every one of them and thank them. And Mr. Lindsay, you're no exception, and we appreciate your selfless service to this chamber. And to further speak the resolution, I'll call upon Senator from the 43rd.
Thank you, Mr. President and Mr. President Pro Tem, for being so gracious. I met Mr. Lindsay. I haven't been here as long as some of you, but the day that I met him, he reminded me of my strong father and uncles, and he's always been kind. And when I realized that he had worked so many years at Draper Corporation, and then he worked part-time as a newspaper boy, I thought, man, this guy's been around doing some great things a long time. And then he retired from Fulton County government, and he plays the organ in his church, two at the same time. You know how we used to have church on the second and fourth Sunday and first and third? Well, he had the opportunity to have two churches at the same time. And I thank you so much, Mr. Wallace, for being a man of magnanimous strength, impeccable reputation, and integrity. Your intelligence, fairness, and kindness have not gone unnoticed, and I want to salute you today with this resolution. Thank you so much, and I present to you Mr. Wallace Lindsay.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. I've enjoyed working here. I came under Lorenzo Wallace. He was the Sergeant of Arms. And I told him the next time that they get a vacancy up there as a doorkeeper to keep me in mind. And about a year later, he called me and said, "Are you still interested?" And I said, "Yes." And it's been wonderful. I'll be 86 Saturday. I'm going to tell my wife's age. She's 85. And We've been married 68 years, and it's been a wonderful marriage. And I think it's time now to get out of the way and let someone else do it. As she said, I have 3 pianos. I bought my first piano, then my mother passed and I got her piano. My aunt passed, not passed, but she was sick. And so I've got 3 pianos in my basement that I got to get back to work on. And thank you so much for having me up here. I did not know that this was going to take place, but it's so wonderful to be recognized while you're living and not when you die. Thank you so very much.
We'll move to the senator from the 52nd. No, 52nd. Chair recognizes senator from the 52nd. Move the bill from the table.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would ask that we remove House Bill 849 from the table.
Is there objection? Without objection, the bill will be removed from the table. Secretary will read the caption.
House Bill 849 by Representative Pico, the 141st and others. The bill will be titled Enactment, Chapter 7, Title 48 of the OCGA, relating to the income tax, so as to provide for reporting of federal partnership adjustments, provide for Georgia partnership and pass-through entity adjustments and assessments and related appeals, and for other purposes. Mr. President, that concludes the order.
Chair recognizes senator from the 52nd to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. House Bill 849 is a technical cleanup bill to put us in compliance with the new federal code. As it is, partnerships have to, in cases of IRS tax audits, have to each deal individually with it. The federal code now lets them name a representative that will deal with these audits, and this will put us in compliance with the federal code. If there's no questions, I'll yield to Will.
Any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Is there objection? Agreed, report of committee which fail pass the bill. Chair is none. Report of committee is agreed to. All those in favor of the bill vote aye. Those opposed no. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 52, nays are 0. This bill, MC Rex Constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. Senator from the 23rd, are you ready now? You will be recognized to remove the bill from the table.
Mr. President, I move for unanimous consent to remove House Bill 890 from the table.
890, read the caption.
House Bill 890, by the full 121st and others, a bill entitled Enactment Article 2, Chapter 11, Title 16 of the OCGA relating to offenses against public order, so as making it unlawful to use an emergency exit after having shoplifted and for other purposes. Mr. President, that concludes the order.
Is there objection? Without objection, the bill is removed from the table. Chair recognizes Senator from the 23rd now to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, 890 simply makes it a crime to use the emergency exits while committing the crime of shoplifting. This has become an increasingly used tactic by gangs, and this will help stop this potentially hazardous action to divert attention from shoplifters. It will make it a misdemeanor. And with that, I urge your support of HB 890 and yield for questions.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 6th for a question.
Will the gentleman yield?
Yes.
Senator, just so I'm clear, just so that
Just shout.
hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
All right, hold on a second. Are you live now?
Hello.
No, I can't hear you. I can see you, but I can't hear you. You know, sometimes that's the best thing, you know. Be seen, not heard, you know. No, they're not working? All right, we'll suspend for just a second. We'll figure out what's going on with Senator from the 9th. Open up the Senator from the 9th's microphone and see if it's working. No, his is not working either. This is going to be a great day. This is the very day I have prayed for 12 years, okay? Where I could see each one of you, but I would not hear any of you. All right, let's suspend for a second while we figure this out.
Hello. Oh, yeah. It's working. It's working.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 6th.
Will the senator yield?
Yes.
So just to be clear, this would be an extra offense on top of being arrested for shoplifting if you just exit through an emergency door?
It would be an additional misdemeanor, and the reason for it is it's to stop a particular tactic used by gangs to divert attention, and it creates a safety hazard in and of itself.
Okay, and so if someone were to go through an emergency exit, just so we're clear, they would be arrested, charged, and then possibly convicted of shoplifting, but then this would be a secondary criminal conviction on top of that just by using that particular exit?
It would, and it's analogous to using a handgun in a crime to commit a robbery.
Going through an emergency exit is analogous to using a handgun in a robbery?
Only in the sense that the method used by the criminals is hazardous in and of itself and is a tactic used by gangs, and the only way to get a stop to this is to send a message that when you use this tactic, you're subjecting yourself to additional punishment because it's a separate crime in and of itself.
No further questions.
Thank you. You have to be committing the crime of shoplifting. That's a separate.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 33rd for a question.
No question, sir. I just asked unanimous consent that the senator from the 35th be excused.
To my favorite member of the Judiciary Committee, I'll yield.
Appreciate it, sir. Thank you.
I didn't hear the question.
I was excusing the senator from the 35th from this vote.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No further questions, Senator.
Thank you. Urge support for 890.
Any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Is the objection read in report of committee which failed pass the bill? Chair is none. Report of committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put to the objection? Chair is none. Main question is ordered. Shall this bill now pass? Questions on the pass the bill. All those in favor of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed no. Secretary unlock the machine. On the pass of the bill, the yeas are 37 and nays are 15, and this bill, I'm sure, constitutional majority is therefore adopted. Chair recognizes Senator from the 32nd. 32nd. No, Senator, remove it. Unanimous consent to remove from the table.
Thank you, Mr. President. Could I have unanimous consent to remove 972 from the table, please?
Read the caption.
House Bill 972, by the will of the 51st and others, the bill will be titled enactment in Chapter 11, Title 15, and Code Section 4958 of the OCGA relating to juvenile code and powers and duties of the Department of Human Services and for other purposes. Mr. President.
Is there objection? Without objection, the bill will be removed from the table. The bill is removed from the table, and now we have some amendments by which we need to read.
Mr. President, Senate Committee on Health and Human Service offers the following substitute to House Bill 972, a bill we titled enactment in Chapter 11, Title 15, and Code Section 4958 of the OCGA relating to the juvenile code and powers and duties of the Department of Human Services, respectively, so as to allow the Division of Family and Children's Services, the Department of Human Services, to offer extended care youth services to youths between 18 and 21 years of age for other purposes. Amendment 1 by Senator Kirk of the 13th and others offers the following amendment in the Senate Committee on Health and Human Services, substitute to House Bill 972, by deleting lines 183 through 206, but inserting in lieu thereof the following. C, upon placement of a child, DFAC shall provide the caregiver, foster parent, pre-adoptive parent, or relative providing care for such child with the following information in writing and for other purposes. Amendment 2 by Senator Ligon III and others. Amend the Senate substitute to House Bill 972 by adding after child on line 11 the following. To amend Article 1 of Chapter 5, Title 49 of the J relating to children and youth services, those allow a child placing agency to decline to accept a referral from the department and decline to perform services not referred under a contract with the department based on the child placing agency's sincerely held religious beliefs and for other purposes. Mr. President, that concludes the order.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 32nd to present the bill. Let's quieten down, if I might. Let's make sure that the chamber gets a little quieter. This very noisy at the moment. Senator from the 32nd will be recognized to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I bring you a very important agency bill related to defects. This is House Bill 972, and it actually does two things. One is it allows defects to extend the foster care services from age 18 to 21. And then the second thing it does is it requires certain information to be provided to foster parents, caregivers, or pre-adoptive parents or relatives when a placement is made. There is a friendly amendment on this bill from Senator Kirk, with which I agree, which makes technical changes to the timing of requesting and providing the information to the people that are receiving the placement. The second amendment has to do with the faith-based agencies. And with all due respect to my colleagues, I'm concerned about adding that language to this particular bill. Although I voted for this language and agree with it, I don't want to jeopardize this very important defects bill and would prefer that we send a clean bill back to the House. So I would state that I do not think this is the right bill for amendment number 2. If there are any questions, otherwise I'll yield the will.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 38th for a question. 38.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will the senator yield?
Yes.
In looking at this bill, my question becomes on the information regarding voluntary continued foster care services from DFACS until the age of 21. There is already an independent living program that they have for individuals between 18 and 21 that were in foster care. I'm trying to understand what the difference in that is and what you're trying to do. I'm actually trying to understand the reason, since I know there is already a program that does what they're asking for.
Currently, when a dependent child reaches 18, all orders in connection with dependency proceedings stop, and so this allows the child to receive extended services from DFACS if they meet certain criteria, including education or being in a work program.
No further questions, Senator.
She's not done.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, my apologies.
Is it changing the federal
The
funding?
chair recognizes Senator from the 38th for another question.
No, thank you.
Okay. No further questions. Chair now recognizes Senator from the 13th to present amendment number 1. Okay, Senator from the 13th, you've been recognized to speak to the amendment like 3 minutes ago.
Sorry, Mr. President, I'm just trying to stretch this day out for your last presiding day in the Senate chamber, so apologize. What you have before you, ladies and gentlemen, is Amendment 1. Having worked with the Department of Family and Children's Services, I understand what happens when children are sometimes removed from a home and then placed into a foster care. And so I worked with the department for this amendment, saying these are the things that if a child was brought to your doorsteps at 8 o'clock tonight, there's some certain things you need to know, medical things, education, so forth. And what this says is if you don't have this, that within 15 days you're going to request all this data and all this information so that you can get it to the foster family as soon as possible. So I would ask your favorable consideration for this amendment.
No question, Senator.
Thank you.
Just so you know, the amendments are in the book if we receive them before today. Chair now recognizes Senator from the second to present, I'm sorry, the first, to present amendment third. I don't know how to count, you know, sometimes. Chair recognizes Senator from the third to present amendment 2.
Thank you, Mr. President. Every year we're aging out over 500 children every year from the foster care system. In 2015, it was 518, 2016, 525, last year 596. Undoubtedly, many of these would have been eligible for adoption, but no one came in to take them, and it just didn't work out. And while 972 is a good program, it offers another government program for the kids. The amendment would open up one more opportunity for these children to have a permanent family. So instead of giving them a bureaucrat, we give them a chance for a family. And we do know that this bill would open up opportunities. It did so in Texas. They passed it last year. They have 2 cities that Amazon is looking to place their headquarters in. 2 cities that are on that list. It didn't hurt business. But it did open up the door for more children because 3 more agencies are willing to serve children in that state. We know that in our state there's at least one, now I understand, 2 agencies that are willing to come in and serve these children if we open these doors. And that would mean the first one said they could take between 40 and 50 children a year, the second one around 20. So that's 70 children a year. That's over 10% of children that we'd be able to place in a home that wouldn't have to be in this program if we'll open up this door, which other states have done, which would be good for children. Mr. President, unless there are questions, I'll yield the will.
There's a couple of questions. Chair recognizes Senator from the 36th for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Yield?
Yes.
You frequently use the term opening up doors.
Right.
When, in fact, isn't it the case that putting this language in this bill serves to close doors and sends a message to a huge segment of our population that they are not welcome to come and present to have a loving family for a child in need? Isn't that the case? It's not opening doors, it's closing doors.
You're absolutely wrong, Senator. This bill governs the relationship between the state and faith-based agencies, and it recognizes the rights that they have under the First Amendment of the Constitution. It doesn't say that it doesn't prohibit anyone from adopting a child. It doesn't say that any agency that has a different purpose cannot contract with the state to place children for adoption, but it is a fact. I have the numbers right here. We're talking about children that no one is adopting. They're aging out because no one is coming to get them. I mean, surely we can say, let's work together on this. Let's recognize that there are differences of opinion on the issue of marriage, and let's give these kids a chance. Give them another opportunity.
Well, I think, isn't it true that in vast numbers, Georgians would agree with me that this is not putting out a welcome mat. This is closing a door.
I disagree with you that the vast numbers would agree. I think that most people would agree that we should do everything that we can, that we should work together. We should recognize that, you know, there are differences of opinion on this, but we're going to work together for these children. We're going to give them every opportunity to be placed in a permanent home.
Differences of opinions, one thing, but treating a whole class of people as second class because of
you know, when you say that we're not going to accommodate, we're not willing to accommodate a First Amendment right, then that's treating those people that hold a sincerely held beliefs to traditional marriage, that their view is somehow less than. And I'm not saying that for anyone. We're saying, well, let's treat everyone equal, give everyone equal access to contract with the state and ensure that. That's what this bill does.
Thank you, Senator.
Mr. President, I yield the well.
Senator has yielded. Chair recognizes Senator from the 42nd.
Mr. President, parliamentary inquiry.
Hold on a second. Would you approach, please? Senator from the 20th, what purpose you rise?
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr.
State
President.
your inquiry.
I'd like the chair to rule on the germaneness of amendment number 2, please, sir.
If y'all will approach. Let me have the Senate's attention for just a moment on the amendment. As I think everyone knows my stance personally on the amendment itself, and have been on record numerous times along with the Senate. This is an important bill, underlying bill that does need to be addressed. So the amendment itself, amendment number 2, will be ruled non-germane. Question now is on amendment number 1. Amendment number 1. Is there objection? Without objection, amendment 1 will be adopted. Question now is on the adoption of the committee substitute as amended. Is there objection? Without objection, committee substitute as amended is adopted. Any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Is there objection? Read a report of committee which fail pass the bill. Chairs none. Report of committees agreed to. All those in favor of the bill vote aye. Those opposed no. Secretary unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 54, the nays are 0, and this bill, MC Rex constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. Chair recognizes Senator from the 19th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate take House Bill 917 off the table.
Is there, read the caption.
House Bill 917 by Representative Dollar, the 45th and others, a bill entitled Enactment Code Section 16860 of those G relating to reproduction of recorded material, transfer, sale, distribution, circulation, civil forfeiture, and for other purposes. Amendment 1 by Senator Unterman, the 45th and others, offers the following amendment. Amend the subject to House Bill 917 by replacing lines 1 through 3 with the following. To amend Chapter 8 of Title 16 of those J relating to offenses involving theft, those to change provisions relating to removal or abandonment of shopping carts for other purposes. Mr. President, that concludes the order.
Is there objection? No. From removing from the table. Are you objecting for the bill being removed from the table? No? Without objection, the bill will be removed from the table. Chair recognizes Senator from the 19th.
Thank Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate. Because of the efforts of many in this chamber, including the senator from the 53rd, our distinguished rules chair, Georgia's become a music and film destination. The problem we have when we have a music and film industry that wants to come here is we also have people who want to copyright, and we need to make sure that we enforce our copyright laws as well. There's two types of copyright laws. There's federal laws. There's also state laws. Federal laws ban copyright if you're trying to copy something, whether it be a picture, a video, film, etc. They also ban it if it was on a memory card, a flash drive, or a hard drive. State laws have not moved forward to catch that new technology. What this bill does is it adds copying copyrighted material onto a memory drive, a flash drive, or a hard drive to state law as well, so that those crimes would not have to be prosecuted in a federal court. Thank you, Mr. President. If there are no questions, I'll yield the well.
There are no questions. Chair recognizes, you've read Amendment 1, right? Chair recognizes Senator from the 45th to speak to Amendment 1.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate. I bring before you Amendment number 1 to the underlying bill of House Bill 917. And the reason I bring this amendment forward is if some of you veterans that have been here a long time, some of my fondest memories in the Senate has been a bill that I worked on maybe 7 or 8 years ago, maybe 9 years ago, about metal theft. And that's exactly what this particular bill is about. And this is version 2 of metal theft. It's still in the same criminal code, Title 16. And it involves the stealing and the purposeful taking, I guess you could say, of shopping carts. And unfortunately, working through the years through the National Conference of State Legislatures, I have worked on the national level on food insecurity. And unfortunately, when shopping centers and in particular grocery stores close, it creates food deserts, and especially food deserts in urbanized areas. And unfortunately, if these shopping carts are stolen and they continue to be stolen, the grocery stores are operating at such a short margin now, more than ever, and the reason they are is because internet ordering. So when you complicate their low profit margin and you put excess expenses on them, as in the stealing of shopping carts and the fines for that, then they don't have any other decision-making tool except to go out of business. And that is what perpetuates and exacerbates the food desert problem. And that's exactly why I was willing to do this particular amendment. So, Mr. President, I'll be glad to answer any questions about House Bill 917, the amendment. The underlying bill deals with theft also in Title 16, so it is germane.
You have some questions. Chair recognizes Minority Leader, Senator from the 41st.
Thank you. Will the senator yield?
Yes.
Yeah, is it not true that this bill doesn't prevent local governments from working with retailers to solve the problem, that, you know, it just makes sure that they don't get penalized or fines for something that they don't intentionally or willfully do? They're actually victims. Is that not true?
Yes, they are victims, and that was another reason why I was willing to do the amendment, and I appreciate the question.
And is it not true further that, you know, that very tight financial situation you've talked about is a real factor, and that we can't allow these valuable retailers to close, because if they do, we end up with food deserts, people not getting the fresh fish, vegetables and foods that they need to keep Georgia healthy?
That's exactly right, and especially people that are on food stamps or the programs that help them to be able to buy those fresh vegetables and fruits. And you're exactly right. Often these are in urbanized areas, and unfortunately those urbanized areas are also the locations where these shopping carts get stolen.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 13th.
Thank you, Mr. President. With Senator yield?
Yes.
Is it not true that taking shopping carts from a retail establishment is a crime?
Yes, sir. I can barely hear you, but I think the answer is yes, sir.
Is it also not true that locals use fines from retailers for someone else's criminal activity, and it's a kind of a form of victim blaming?
Yes, sir. I believe it is. It's kind of the broken windows syndrome, because when I ask my police chief or my sheriffs, why don't you go out there and control sex trafficking or some of these minor infractions? And that's exactly right, the question you're asking. Why don't you go out and give fines to people stealing these shopping carts? And they say to me, Renee, do you want me out there on I-85 working accidents? Do you want me working home invasions? And of course I say, yeah, I want you working those high ticket items. But unfortunately, this is not a way to resolve this problem. It's exacerbating the problem for the people that live in these urbanized areas.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 1st for a question.
Just at the appropriate time, I'd like a ruling on germaneness, please.
Mr. President, if there's no further questions, I'll be glad to yield the well, and I ask for your favorable consideration. And I do think that this is very germane because it's in the exact same title, and it deals with metal theft, and that's what shopping carts are made out of, is metal. And I think it's very appropriate. I ask for your favorable consideration. I yield the well.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 1st.
Thank you, Mr. President. Certainly, I anticipated this amendment coming, but I certainly did not see it as metal theft. Goodness gracious. What are we trying to do here on the 40th day? I do see some Snickers out there, and I don't even think I need to be up here talking because I don't think this is necessarily germane. But let me just talk about what this is addressed towards. This is addressed towards a big grocery store chain, and this was an ordinance that was worked out in the city of Savannah because we do have a problem with grocery store carts being abandoned. Nobody wants that. The city doesn't want that, and the grocery stores should not want that either. So let me just tell you what this does. This, let me just dial this up here just a second. So the store has 3 days to come pick up the cart. If you don't pick it up, the cart is delivered back by the city, and they're charged a $300 delivery fee. And if they continue to be delinquent in this, they can be fined up to $1,000. I'm sorry, it is not true that they can be fined up to $1,000. That is absolutely not true. But most grocery store chains, large chains, do the right thing. They will either mark it so that you can know where it's from, you can return it, or they put on devices on each cart that they can't go farther than that. The wheels lock. So, Mr. President, I would really think this is non-germane, but I'll yield the well and ask for that consideration.
All those in favor of Amendment 1, rise, stand, and be counted. If you are in favor of Amendment 1, rise, stand, and be counted. Reverse. On amendment number 1, the yeas are 17, the nays are 15, and the amendment has passed. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Is there objection? Report. Huh? Did I say it? Huh? Okay, that's fine. Okay, all right. The amendment? Yeah. Chair recognizes Senator from the first.
Mr. President, I'd like to ask for reconsideration.
Senators asking for reconsideration of amendment number 1. Senator from the 45th, what purpose do you rise?
All right.
State your inquiry.
Mr. President, isn't it true on reconsideration that does that go to the foot of the calendar, or are you going to vote on it right now?
No, the amendment, excuse me, just asking for, you're making me sleepy today. Now this is just a reconsideration of the amendment. So you vote on it right now, and if so, it's before the
Parliamentary
body.
inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that this affects every county and every city in the state of Georgia, and it's very important?
Senator has great passion for which she speaks. All of those that would like to reconsider the Senate's action on the adoption of Amendment 1 will rise, stand, and be counted. If you are in favor of reconsidering the actions of the Senate, reverse. On reconsideration, the yeas are 21, the nays are 19. On reconsideration, the yeas are 21, the nays are 19. The Senate has reconsidered its action on amendment number 1. All those in favor of amendment number 1 will rise, stand, and be counted. If you are in favor of amendment number 1, rise, stand, and be counted. Chair recognizes Senator in the first.
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Isn't it true that you would want to vote no on this amendment for local control? This is just a way of taking over what a delicate balance has been struck between the grocers and the city council in Savannah.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 45th. What purpose you rise? Reverse.
Parliamentary inquiry. That a yes vote is for the grocery stores in the state of Georgia and them not going out of business.
Senator has great passion for which she speaks. Huh? Yeah, y'all caught all those hands over there, right? Yeah. We got them all. Got them all. So this is on the adoption of the amendment. The yeas are 26, the nays are 17. And the amendment has been adopted. Good enough. Yeah, that's true. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Is there objection agreed to report of committee which failed pass the bill? Chair is none. Report of committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put? The objection, chair is none. Main question order. Shall this bill now pass? Question on the pass bill. All those in favor of the bill vote aye. Those opposed no. Secretary, unlike the machine. on the passage of the bill, the yeas are 49, and the yeas are 49, the nays are 2, and this bill, MC Rex constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. There is lunch in the anteroom. We're going to go ahead and take our lunch break now, and recess for, let's say 1:30.